Hello, epic viewers from around the multiverse. Prepare to bask in unprecedented glory, because today we're going to be reviewing Day 3 of the real-world job experience. So how was my night shift on the third day of the job? Did I deem it to be an egregious, appalling, utterly abysmal experience? Or did I find it to be a blissful, meritorious, worthwhile experience to be pursuant of? Or was it characterized by insipid mediocrity? Well, I deemed the experience to be appalling, to say the least. I detested and disdained every picosecond of it. It essentially was torturous, and it was definitely strenuous, to say the least. I just succumbed to the drudgery of manual labor, and I decided to concede to working the night shift. So, as you guys unequivocally know, if you watched the previous episode in which I ranted and raved about the issues appertaining to the job, I made a requisition to earn the maximum starting salary, and they still haven't responded. I wrote a letter, I sent an updated resume, and because of my educational credentials, because of my extensive work experience, I should undoubtedly qualify for the maximum salary. However, they're not going to provide that, or they're not going to make a concession, they're not going to accommodate that particular request, then I'll have to find a disparate job. Now, finding a job that I'm qualified to perform that would pay at least quadruple the salary that I'm receiving now is non-feasible at the moment. Unfortunately, to my dismay, finding a significantly higher paying job would require me to move. And the cost of moving, the overhead costs that I would incur would negate the benefits appertaining to attaining a higher salary. And finding a job remotely that offers a high salary in my field is relatively arduous, because I have the credentials to perform a job in a niche field with relatively few openings. Now, in order to qualify for that much higher paying job, not only would I likely have to succumb to moving, but if I was fortunate enough to attain a high paying position online, not only would the hours be far and few, but I'd have to essentially attain more publications, and the chances of getting published are anywhere from 10 to 25%. My dissertation is published, but that alone is not enough. After I finish my doctorate, I should have published 3 articles appertaining to the research study I conducted for my dissertation. I wrote a comprehensive, intricate, mixed methods dissertation. The mixed methods methodology doubles the lengths of your dissertation. Mine is well over 140 pages. Writing that dissertation depleted nearly 2 years of my finite, sacrosanct life in this vessel. So, because job prospects in the area for the field I'm educated in are so scant and non-existent, and because attaining a job remotely in the field I'm educated in would require me to invest a significant amount of money to conduct more research studies, and a significant amount of more time to conduct more research studies, I'm likely going to have to attain a new skill. So, even though I have an MBA and a doctorate, I may have to acquire some IT skills, being a network administrator, or doing a job, I can do that. Learning JavaScript, Python, HTML, CSS, and other valuable skills may be necessary for me to attain sustenance and get out of poverty. So, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I detest and disdain being destitute, impoverished, and indigent. But for me to have a low standard of living, for me to not be an indentured servant, I may have to attain some IT skills. So I apologize about that digression. Now, in terms of the job, day 3 was unbearable, to say the least. My manager wants me to move much faster, like Speedy Gonzalez. Now, when he was performing his role, he was moving eminently fast, meaning he was moving like this, and they wanted me to emulate his actions. Now, of course, I could do that, but it's more strenuous for the body. And when I was completing the modules at the job, they were advising their employees to stretch, to follow all the precautionary measures. But he probably wants me to circumvent all of that and just move as fast as I can. Now, of course, I could expedite everything if I so choose to, but when you're moving around for 8 hours in a row, and when you only get the chance to sit amid a 10 or 15 minute break, it's almost unbearable. We're not meant to sit all day nor stand all day, but to attenuate the deleterious effects of the inflammation, I would try to sit on that step ladder for brief periods of time, and I would also contract my legs, and I would sway from side to side so that blood can easily flow back up to my cerebral cortex, and so that I'm less apt to succumb to varicose veins. So when you succumb to varicose veins, your veins become elongated and they become gnarled. They also become stiff, and the valves in your veins may not work properly anymore, which interferes with blood flow and which puts an extra stress on your body and your overall health. So my body's already severely inflamed from hauling heavy loads, from constantly having to bend over and constantly having to stretch my body in awkward positions to perform the job. And because they're severely understaffed, they want me to do the role of essentially 2 to 3 people. This is not the job that I signed up for, but the company transitioned me to another position because the night staff is so understaffed. So not only does this night shift interfere with my circadian rhythm and adversely impinge on my health by shaving off years of my life, and not only does it encroach on my ability to eat because it drains a copious amount of my time. I also have to commute to and from work. It's highly inefficient, but it also causes my vessel to become further ravaged, further dilapidated. I feel like it's becoming ramshackled because it's just such a strain against my vessel, you know. And when I saw other people perform the same job that I perform at other facilities, and when I watched my coworkers perform the same job that I performed, they were going much more slowly than I was performing the job. But he expects me to be the fastest possible worker because You probably think that I'm the youngest, and I'm presuming that I am the youngest there. But as I told him, I'm nearly 30. I'm dealing with thousands of items at a time. And I also told him that the tasks that they're performing are completely asinine. And he got agitated about it. And that is completely inefficient and is a sheer and utter waste of time. Because irrespective of whether these tasks are performed or not, the consumers are still going to procure the products. They're not going to forgo buying the products, even if everything doesn't look spiffy per se. And it's difficult to read the numbers on the products. The universal product codes are practically microscopic, and my visual prowess has diminished, it has atrophied, and it continues to wane in perpetuity, so that's an issue. But just hauling these heavy loads, having to move fast, having to constantly stretch my body in awkward positions, not being able to sit down, not being able to stretch, not having any breaks, not having any coworkers assist me, and the pressure he puts on me to perform the roles of 2 to 3 people when I didn't even apply for this job, and the issue of working the night shift just compounds and culminates in creating a recipe for disaster, because I'm extremely fatigued when I'm working the job. I go there without having eaten anything because I don't have time to eat before the job. It's either I sleep before work or I eat. But if I eat, I won't get any sleep. But if I sleep, then I won't be able to eat. So it's just disaster. So when all these issues amalgamate together of having to haul heavy loads with a dainty, feeble vessel that lacks any semblance of musculature, and having to work without being imbued with energy, without having attained proper REM sleep, and without having been able to recover my body the night beforehand, it just creates a recipe for disaster. So I'm going there in a debilitative state, and I'm extremely lethargic when I go there because there's no food in my vessel, and my family members typically disturb me from my slumber. So it's just a nightmare. I dread the job. It's antisocial. No one socializes. Everyone completes their individual tasks. But it is what it is. I'm just there for the prospect of earning a paycheck, and that's it. No other reason. I don't attain a modicum of agency through working, and it would be nice if I wasn't deemed as expendable capital livestock from the corporation's perspective. I do appreciate the fact that the managers are professional and that the staff is professional. Everyone there seems to be courteous, cordial, affable, and presumably diligent. But yet again, to corporate, I'm just expendable capital livestock, and they'll use me like a tool until I can no longer perform the task, and then I'll be displaced with a robot or another individual who they can offer a lower salary to. But yet again, if they're not going to adhere to my request to receive the maximum starting salary, which is a marginal disparity between the minimum starting salary and the maximum starting salary, then I'm going to have to find another job. Even if I have to get 1 hour sleep per night, I'll just have to apply in perpetuity until I could attain a higher paying job that's within the vicinity of where I live. Unfortunately, getting a high-paying job remotely would be a nightmare, but I'll have to look into that avenue as well. And maybe I'll have to apply for grants so I can conduct more research studies. But yet again, conducting research studies is time-consuming and expensive. And even if I invest hundreds of hours into conducting more research studies and attaining more publications, there's no guarantee that I'll attain a high-paying job. But even if I do attain a high-paying job, then the hours will likely be far and few, and then they'll try to replace me with someone else who they can pay a lower salary to or a lower wage to. So the whole situation is just a nightmare. I'd prefer to make these asinine videos to earn a livelihood, but that prospect is off the table since YouTube demonetizes everything and Twitch extracts 100% of the advertising revenue that my live streams generate. And I thought about being a blogger, but there's scripts, there's autonomous programs that can produce blogs or produce articles in 2 to 3 seconds, so that option's off the table. And the industries that I'm competing within, since I work 2 jobs, are either too much of a niche for any new job openings, or they're oversaturated with competition. So maybe I have to go back to school and attain some IT skills, even though I have a doctorate in MBA. I also earned a 4.0 GPA throughout my rigorous doctoral program, but I guess it means nothing if you can't attain a high-paying job right away. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. This is a reality of the workforce. Everything's being outsourced. High-paying jobs are far and few, and employees are perceived as capital livestock that are dispensable and that are tools to the corporation. So I hope that you found this video to be insightful and enthralling. As a totality, I'd rate the experience of working the third day of work to be a 0 out of 10. I dreaded every picosecond of it. So that's my little review in a nutshell. To recapitulate, the experience was abhorrent and indelible, to say the least, since it was so torturous, undergoing the drudgery of manual labor. So I likely won't forget day 3 of the job experience for years to come. I hope that you found this video to be insightful. Goodbye.